One of the other people was at a seminar in the Goethe Institute about media freedom, and they had not planned to discuss Palestine, but activists from the BDS and other movements brought the banners pointing out that 174 journalists had been killed and had their photos there and the names of these journalists. So there's no place to hide for them in Africa and Asia, but in Europe, there's a lot more work to be done because the leaders are not in sync with their people. The people are far more progressive.
It's not easy for any person to see the Palestinian children in Gaza being butchered by Israeli occupation bombs and bullets every day without at least saying or writing a word against that, to remind their governments that action must be taken to end the catastrophe ongoing for 76 years, the worst scenes of which are live streamed today. Solidarity activists expressed their rejection to Israel's genocide against Gaza by organizing protests, writing an article or a poem searching for human hearts to move and help save the life of Gaza children. Hassan Logast, activist, writer, and poet of South Africa, always raises his voice for Gaza and all of Palestine. You welcome to the program, Mr. Hassan.
Thank you for having me, Osama. Long time no speak.
Habiba Hassan. We know that you're supporter for justice for all humanity, not only for the people of Palestine. But while we are watching, as I said, live-streamed massacres by the Israeli occupation forces against the Palestinian people, whether in Gaza or the West Bank and Jerusalem, how do you see the momentum of solidarity in South Africa and maybe elsewhere in Africa in response to these massacres and these pogroms that we see every day?
Our struggle here is to fight with the supporters of Zionism at home, because they embolden the Israeli regime to take the steps that it does without impunity, without care for lives, because they have the backing of the powerful countries, in particular the US. Now, last week, or the 7th of October, the chief rabbi of South Africa, Rabbi Warren Goldstein, basically asked that Israel finish the job, right? And he used a Jewish word to talk about until final victory. In a 12-minute speech, he used that word 13 times. So you can see how people holding church positions, holding churches in the positions in the synagogue, holding positions in journalism, holding positions just in society, in what they call the diaspora, actually support what is happening in Palestine, in Gaza, in the West Bank. Now, when we see how Gaza, in the north of Gaza, is being depopulated, 400,000 people being forced to move, they are starved. I know this. You can do any search on the internet, AP, Al Jazeera, BBC, they all acknowledge that people are being starved. And this, as you pointed out, is the most recorded genocide in the world. By me talking to you, I can't help feeling helpless. I feel that we can and must do more. Whatever problems we have with our government, I must be proud to say they filed 500 pages worth of evidence in the court the other day, pointing out that what Israel is doing is a genocide. And what is more, Osama, that journalists, your friends and colleagues, have been identifying on the social media posts of the Israeli army, the occupying forces, their websites, of their personal websites, to find out who are these people that are glorifying the killing of others. Because They are recording themselves. As someone wrote, they are TikToking the genocide.
Yes, and
They are
this
recording.
leads me, yes, Hassan, this leads me to the second question, really, because people know solidarity, that it's like organizing protests and demonstrations, but there are other forms of solidarity to expose the true face of the Israeli occupation, the Israeli media, and all the supporters of the occupation practices. People like poets, for example, writing poems, authors writing stories and articles reflecting the Palestinian people's suffering. How important is that to convey the message to the world and show the ugly face of the Israeli occupation?
We try to build movements. So our poetry, our songs, our music is there to make people know that Palestinians are the center of their own resistance and we are in support of them. But we're so far away from you. So our music there tries to connect us. The video I sent you is written, they wrote music, the Mavericks wrote music to the poem of Refat, right?
Yes.
This very poem has been written in over 40 languages, Telugu, Sichuana, in African languages, in German, in various other languages, in countries where freedom of speech has been declining because of the people's support for Palestine, while the ruling class are supporting Netanyahu and his gang. So what we try to do is a small aspect of support because we're so far away. I think the true form of support is if we could be there next to you, if we could break through those borders, make sure that there's enough drinking water for people, make sure they can have the right to life and live a dignified life so that they can fight for the future that they want. And Israel, by starving them, by doing ethnic cleansing, means that we can't do much but to force our governments to try and do more. But the true struggle must be waged inside America, the belly of the beast, so that all those young people, young Jewish activists, young Palestinian activists, young progressive activists there who are taking the lead in campuses, they will change America for the long run. But in the short term, we need justice. We need to end the siege. We need to stop this. We need to make sure that Palestine can breathe again.
Yeah.
Hopefully that our poems can soothe some of this, but ultimately people need bread, they need water, they need the bullets and the bombs to stop.
Yeah, but as we know, Hassan, that a lot of the protests and demonstrations sweeping the streets of Europe, Britain, France, the United States, everywhere. But Israel does not care about the public opinion, and even the governments of these countries don't care. We saw the American administration did nothing to stop this genocidal campaign. Germany, we see the German police attacking the supporters of justice for Palestine every day. So while Israel having all this support from America and other Western governments and taking advantage from the silence of the Orient, of the region, do you think that Israel is achieving its goal of having like a greater Israel? Israel controls the whole area in the Middle East?
I think that their grand designs after the mineral wealth, the gas and other minerals that lay on the shores of Gaza, there is one eye. They want the land space. I believe Donald Trump wants to build a hotel there, him and his son-in-law, Kushner. But, that's their wish. We also watched the other day when Zionist groups met, supporters of Likud met trying to talk about, trying to encourage settlers to populate northern Gaza and to occupy the lands that have been taken over. I think that as tragic as it is, as painful as it is, some mornings we wake up almost feeling without hope. But then we recognize that we need to have hope. When we receive phone calls from friends and others, to know that the sumud of Palestinians is so strong, we become stronger. Hopefully, you can get some inspiration from us, but ultimately your needs are so basic there. You need to live a life without terror, without want, without having to struggle for basic things. That's where you're at. But I must tell you that the longer the struggle goes, whatever they do to Palestinians, they'll be judged year and the year after. But the resistance of Palestinians, they thought this is going to be easier. Even in Lebanon, every day we hear of IDF soldiers dying, every day, Yeah. So they may have designs on a Middle East or a greater Eretz Israel, but the truth is Israel will be forced to admit borders that are far narrower than what its ambitions are. Even to have sea borders, Lebanon and others are resisting it because they want the mineral wealths in the seas and elsewhere. But, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And this reaction is the popular resistance of people. And what's happening in Gaza is not a fight against soldiers. How do you explain, Usama, how do you explain when a report comes out, right, 650 odd pages, and it says out of the close to 12,000 children who died, 710 of them, 710, did not even make 1 year.
Yeah.
Would not even celebrate their first birthday.
Yeah, and that leads me to my final question, Hassan, because we always talk about the unlimited, indefinite American support to the Israeli occupation government in its genocide against Gaza. The word used to hear the concepts of human rights, justice, equality, gender equality, all that from the Western governments, yes? But what we see today is the true face of these governments supporting the Israeli brutality and the Israeli barbaric practices, murdering acts against children and women. As you mentioned, more than 700 children were deprived of completing 1 year of their age. So how do you see, as not only activist, but as a poet, as a writer, Hassan, how do you see the Western civilization these days compared to the concepts that we used to hear from them in the past?
Usama, I must tell you a story that is accredited to Mahatma Gandhi.
Yes.
They asked him, what do you think of Western civilization? Mm-hmm. His reply was, it would be a good idea, right? Because he was actually thinking there was no Western civilization because they were colonizing people, etc. But let me also say to you, the duplicity has come about, where in Germany, people who survived the Holocaust, who protest in favor of Palestine, are arrested. They are trying to ban the BDS in Europe. But a week ago, activists in Cape Town asked the German ambassador to leave a meeting because his people are complicit in killing activists. He was in a conference. One of the other people was at a seminar in the Goethe Institute about media freedom, and they had not planned to discuss Palestine. But activists from the BDS and other movements brought the banners pointing out that 174 journalists had been killed and had their photos there and the names of these journalists. So there's no place to hide for them in Africa and Asia. But in Europe, there's a lot more work to be done because the leaders are not in sync with their people. The people are far more progressive and supportive of Palestine. So when they say the guilt of what Europeans did to Jewish people, the Palestinians have to suffer, and that is wrong. And the people have understood it, but the leaders have not understood it, Yeah. And of course, there are other reasons. They are testing their military armaments on Palestinians. The arms industry is making a lot of money. And in fact, the Jewish activists in America are actually saying that a number of people in Congress have invested in the armaments industry, so they are profiting from war. And this comes from Jewish Voices for Peace, not from me. So the movements are strong. but immediately we have to stop the killing, make sure people get water, get food, and rebuild their lives so that we can fight another day for justice and a unified Palestine where
Yes.
everyone can live together, Jews, Arabs, Muslims, Christians, from the river to the sea.
Yes. Hassan Lorgat, activist, fighter for justice, poet, and writer from South Africa. It has been a great honor having you in our program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, my brother.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And from you, Saman Azal, have a nice time.